Good morning, good morning. Thank you all so much for finding your way through all of the crowds to be here this morning with us. We are so thrilled to have you here. Today's session is about human by design. I'm Allison Freihoff. I'm the general manager of our nonprofit business and thrilled again to have you here. Today, we are going to feature three amazing leaders, each with a unique mission, utilizing technology to enhance the human experience. And all of us want to find that purpose. All of you are here to hear about technology at this incredible reInvent show. And I am so deeply passionate about the ability for nonprofits to use cloud technology to enhance that human experience. I'd like to give you a little bit of background on AWS and AWS nonprofits. When AWS started 15 years ago, some of our first customers were nonprofits, organizations like the Red Cross, Code.org, and PBS, who are still using cloud technology today from AWS to enhance their missions. For these organizations, time is of the essence. We work with such a diverse set of organizations, charities, NGOs, research institutes, our nonprofit technology companies, member associations, credit unions, all so that they can be empowered to use cloud technology and their data to make better decisions, to enhance their beneficiaries' lives, and to do more for their mission outcomes. Because you know what? When you're protecting people, when you are protecting our planet, time means everything. And that sense of urgency, I think, is something that you're going to hear from each of the leaders that are here today. How do you use your data smarter? How do you make better decisions? How do your programs benefit your beneficiaries in much better ways? So, for example, some of you may know that 34% of the US population is 50 and over, and that is rapidly growing because of the aging baby boomers. AARP is on a mission to empower every person to choose how they live as they age. Almost 2 million people are incarcerated in the US alone, and you'll hear from Flickshop, an impact-driven company working hard to reduce recidivism by keeping every person in every cell connected to their families and to their community resources. And of course, we hear about employment, and overall employment in the computer industry is growing every single day. Between the next 10 years, it will outgrow almost every other industry. And Code.org is dedicated to the vision that every student in every school has the opportunity to take computer science in K-12 education. At AWS Nonprofits, our customer's mission is our mission. And we are so excited to be joined by such incredible organizations today. I'd like to start by giving you some more information and diving deep with Jessica Kulik from Code.org. Jessica, come on out. Let's clap for Jessica. Thank you so much. And you might want to click one more time, sorry.
Well, thank you so much, Allison. And thanks also to AWS for hosting this panel. I especially want to say a huge thank you to all of you out in the audience who are here today, because we here today, all of us here, we have a great opportunity. We have an opportunity to make a positive impact in the lives of today's students, who will be the people sitting out in this audience in the future. My name's Jessica Kulik, and I work at an organization that works to build a future where every student around the entire world can learn computer science as part of their day-to-day education. And we do this especially by focusing on students who would never have found computer science on their own. Now, I first encountered Code.org when I was a college student myself studying computer science. And I had taken this part-time job at a local middle school, teaching their computer science class. And I had never taught before, so I was trying to learn how do I become a better teacher and do better by these students. Well, I found this nonprofit that was offering free seminars for this emerging group of computer science teachers. And so on a cold, rainy October morning, myself and about a dozen other computer science teachers came together, and we learned about how to build a better CS classroom, how to design it so our students would be excited, and so all of our students could succeed. That nonprofit, of course, was Code.org, and that last piece I mentioned about building excitement and helping all of our students succeed, that's part of what makes our mission possible, that kind of focus. Now, it's no secret that there's a shortage of women in computer science and technology fields, and also that we struggle to recruit students and workers from underrepresented racial and ethnic groups. And that's where we work, right? Our students around the world are nearly half young women. And our representation of students from these underrepresented racial and ethnic groups, they nearly match their representation within the United States. In addition, almost half of our students hail from a high-needs school, meaning they can't afford to buy their own lunch, and yet they're able to now take a computer science class. And this is something that can make generations of change. We all know that tech jobs are in high demand. They're good paying jobs. And so we can make huge impacts in these students' lives. And these are the students who probably wouldn't have found computer science on their own. And then there's, of course, going to be students who will take these classes but won't choose to study computer science or technology. And that's still great, because computer science is foundational. It helps you think and reason. And so these students who take one or two computer science classes, they'll enter adulthood with a greater understanding of the technology that affects every part of their daily lives. Now, over the decade that Code.org has been active, we've reached a lot of students. Our courses are in a lot of schools. But while we've done well for the students we've reached, most schools, even in the United States, still don't teach even a single computer science class. And so this is where you all come in. At the beginning, I promised you all an opportunity. Well, as technology experts, you can volunteer in your local schools. You can advocate with your local, state, and federal governments to direct funding and resources towards computer science education. And you can donate to the work that we do. And together, we can make a positive impact in the lives of these students. Now, thank you so much, and I'm pleased to welcome to this stage our next panelist, Samir Shah, Vice President of Software Engineering at AARP.
Thanks. Good morning. In a world where things are changing all the time and people have different opinions, there's one thing we all have in common. We're all Asian. And by the time I'm done presenting, we'll we'll all be a few minutes older. People over 50 are the largest and fastest growing demographic in the world. They're about a quarter of the world's population, which is nearly 2 billion people. And they're living longer. Did you know that the 50-plus demographic embraces technology as part of their daily lives? Our research and experience shows that this audience is ready to meet you digitally. 90% of them are online, use mobile devices, and the pandemic accelerated that adoption even more. For example, virtual socializing went up 70%, and the amount of money they spent on technology nearly tripled. At ARP, we're dedicated to empowering people to choose their lives as they age. We're the nation's largest nonprofit, nonpartisan organization, and we serve nearly 38 million members thanks to the work of our 66,000 volunteers and 2,300 employees across our offices in every state. We're a $1.8 billion organization that on a given day is taking thousands of inbound calls and requests and hosting tens of thousands of people across multiple events and services. For example, ARP Foundation volunteers served more than 1 million medium to lower income taxpayers, many of them online in 2021, and helped them secure $745 million in federal income tax returns. The ARP Driver Safety Program exceeded 500,000 engagements in 2021, launched virtual versions of its flagship programs, and facilitated thousands of free rides to COVID-19 vaccine appointments and other essential services. Over 2 million people received expert advice on a wide variety of issues in ARP tele-town hall meetings, and more than 100,000 people called into the ARP Fraud Watch Network helpline for advice. The ARP Community Center launched in 2021 and attracted more than 600,000 visitors by the year's end. And ARP awarded more than $3.2 million in grants to help make communities more livable. And of course, all of this is made possible by technology, including all of these AWS services that you see. Okay, so we're now all a few minutes older. Take a look at the world through somebody else's eyes. A parent, grandparent, brother, sister, aunt, uncle, friend, neighbor, or the person sitting next to you, and ask yourself, what can I do to make a difference? Thank you. And now, last up, please give a warm welcome to Marcus Bullock, the CEO and founder of Flickshop.
Thank you so much, man. How you guys doing this morning? Everybody's good. It's always fun to come out here on stages like this, and the lights are amazing. I can't see a lot of you guys' faces, but I am grateful that you guys spent some time with us this morning. One of the things I get really excited about in these kinds of environments is because if I'm being really honest, I'm probably the least likely person to not only be at this conference, but also definitely addressing you all from this incredible stage. So I'm super excited to talk a little bit about the company that we built, the journey it took for us to be able to get here. Now, this picture that's shown behind me, this is a picture of me, my mom, my sister, and a cute little baby. That's my niece, Demia. Now, Demia is like 27 right now, and she was actually here with me in Vegas celebrating my birthday on yesterday. And Thank you, thank you, thank you. The interesting thing is, how old am I when my niece in this photo is able to celebrate with me in Vegas at a bar? But I digress, we'll talk about that later. This photo was also taken about 3 weeks before my 15th birthday and a couple of weeks before I made one of the worst decisions in my life. When I was 15 years old, my best friend and I, during my sophomore year of high school, we committed a carjacking. I knocked on a man's window with a firearm, demanded that he get out of his car. And my best friend and I, we jumped in the driver's and the passenger side of that car, and we sped off into the night, leaving that man standing there, dazed and confused about what had just happened. It was a horrible decision, and it landed me in handcuffs the very next day. I stood before a judge as a 15-year-old, and I listened to that judge certify me as an adult and then sentence me to 8 years in adult maximum security prisons. I will go on to spend my 16th birthday, 17th birthday, 18th birthday, 19th, 20th, 21st, 22nd, and 23rd birthdays, all growing up inside of some of the state of Virginia's worst prisons. And if I'm being honest with you, as you can imagine, it was the hardest time of my life. Now, during that journey, my mom, she began to see the depression set in and the hopelessness that began to set in as her teenage son went through watching men get wheeled down the prison rec yard in body bags, trying to figure out how to grapple with being the youngest person on the prison compound because of the way that my judge sentenced me, and trying to figure out how to help me understand there's a possibility of life even after prison. My mom made an interesting decision along that journey to make a promise to me in a prison visiting room after I tried to push her away. I would tell my mom, don't come and visit me anymore. I'm not going to call you any longer. We're not going to write each other. I need you to start grieving for me now because it's highly likely that I'm going to die in prison. In fact, my cell partner, who was there to serve life plus 43 years, would commonly talk about the last thing that he would see would be cinder block walls before he would die and pass on. I told my mom, listen, start saving the $500. If you grieve for me now, when they call you and you have to pay the $500 for my body to give it away so that you can have a proper burial, it won't hurt you as much. And my mom, she thought that I was the craziest person in the world for saying that to her. In fact, my mother would come and visit me the very next weekend after I told her to never come and visit me again. And she would sit in that visiting room and she would go on to tell me, Marcus, I'm going to make a promise to you to write you a letter or send you a picture every day for the next 6 years of your life while you're sitting in this prison cell, just to ensure that you see that there's life after prison. I will go on and go on through this prison sentence, and after I finally came home, after serving all 8 of the years, I would want to go and try to figure out how to get my life back on track and finding gainful employment. Now, it was challenging being the person that would knock on doors and fill out job applications and have to click or check that magical box that seemed to be lurking, waiting for me to check every single time, have you been convicted of a felony? You see, there are over 70 million people in the United States who live with a felony conviction, and most of them are precluded from having employment opportunities that will allow for them to be able to build sustainable careers. In fact, I will go on 41 job applications, 41 job interviews, with all of them telling me no, that they wouldn't give me a job, and so the 42nd would give me that opportunity. It was at a paint store, and it allowed me to be able to have my first opportunity to prove to not only my mom and myself that I could be a contributing member to our community, but I could also begin to have the opportunity to erase some of the stigma that comes along with living in America with a felony conviction. In fact, I would go on to figure out how to leverage what my mom did for me when she would send me these photos and letters in prison, and I will go on to create the company Flickshop. Flickshop is the mobile app that allows our users the ability to take a picture, add some quick text, press send, and for 99 cents, we print that photo and message on a real tangible postcard, and we ship it to any person in any cell anywhere in the country. I'm super pumped about what the success rate has been for us at Flick Shop and how many lives we continue to connect. And also really, really excited to announce even here today that since we've launched, we've connected over 170,000 families. Thank you. Now, it's interesting what we've built and all of the lessons learned while building a tech company, because when I went to prison, catch this, there was no internet inside of people's homes. And I came home, there was Google. The whole world changed because I got locked up with a beeper on my hip, right? I'm dating myself, some of y'all have beepers, don't judge me. But now we've gone on to leverage some of the technologies, like the ones on the screen here, EC2 instances, RDS, SNS, and even Amazon recognition that allows us to be able to scan postcards for photo contraband and ensure that we not only keep the facility safe, families connected, second chance employers getting access to a new labor pool, and also welcoming people back to their communities and their neighborhoods ready to go on and create a path of success for themselves as well. I'm super grateful to be able to be here because, like I started with, I'm one of the ones that are probably most likely to not have ever ended here, while I probably could have easily just died in prison like some of my friends did. But I'm also now here to continue to erase the stigma for the other men and women that live in this country without felony convictions and figuring out ways to collaborate with so many of you all today. And as you think about how to advance your social impact strategies and your community engagement mission. Thank you guys so much.
Thank you, Marcus. Thank you so much for telling your stories. We wanted to go just a little bit deeper because I think this topic is so exciting, technology to enhance the human experience. There's that common thread that you all talked about. So thank you for talking about the technology, but how does it really affect what you're doing every day with your beneficiaries? How does it affect your programs? And how does it allow you to better engage with your beneficiaries? Jessica, maybe we'll start with you.
Yeah, sure. So we have, let's see, we have a large number of students, and we've found a lot of people don't know that much about technology. They don't know much about the technology that runs their phones. They don't know about what's behind the animations in their favorite movies. And technology and computer science, coding, all feels like this big black box where, you know, the smart people out in San Francisco work on it, and it's not for me. And so a big part of what we do is we encourage kids to just try it. Try 1 hour of code. See, you know, what could happen in an hour, right? And a lot of them end up finding out, you know, this is exciting, this is engaging, and this is something that I can be very successful at. And so that, you know, that's a big piece for us. You know, being able to host something for many, many, many students around the entire world. We also focus very specifically, right? We teach specific courses for different age levels. And when we think about, say, our high school audience, right, we've learned that our oldest students who are preparing for college, they often point to, there's actually one particular course that they point to and they say, this is what prepared me for college. And for many of them, it's this same course offered around the entire country. And the problem is that this course has challenges with diversity, both gender diversity and racial diversity. And that kind of being our sweet spot where we really work really well. We took it upon ourselves to build our own version of this course, something that would be really engaging for students and that would be, and that would excite students and give them that confidence as they're thinking about, all right, what do I major in? You know, do I go to college? What would I study? What kind of job do I want to do? And I'm excited to say that it's been the first year of that course, and we're starting to see some changes in the diversity, especially with the students who are taking it through our course. And so we focus very, very wide, and we focus very specifically as well. And we find that the technologies we use support that as well. Thinking about we host our website on EC2, right? And that allows us to scale up as we do major initiatives like this Try an Hour of Code initiative. And we can also use some of the diversity of options that AWS offers for some of these more specific types of.
And analytics for seeing which courses are being picked up maybe, and which courses are resonating across the board. And
Yes. The analytics, we use Redshift as well for a lot of the analytics, and it helps us figure out what courses are being used most and which ones aren't being used most. Also, a very important metric, and how students are using them as well.
Great, thank you, Samir. Maybe for you, a little bit more about how the technology is really enhancing the human experience, how it's making the beneficiaries. I will put myself in your category there, and just making lives better and allowing them to live as they age in the way that they want to.
Sure. So we at ARP have a wealth of data and knowledge. So whether it's caregiving, healthcare, social security, travel, it's all there. And what we wanted to make sure, as you come onto our website or our mobile phone, that information is available to you in any channel at the time you want it, in the way you want to consume it. So the example I use a lot is, I went through caregiving with my mother, and I wanted to find out information about, okay, what can I do? What are the resources available to me? And, by having this information that's personalized, that's available to me, that can, I can sign up for different newsletters, and it's customized to what I need, it just helped me, right? So I think you said earlier on, it's about getting the data quickly, being able to analyze it, and then being able to serve it up in the way that people want to consume it rather than the way you want them to consume it, right? So it's about personalization, it's about engagement, and it's all about how does the person feel when they're on your sites doing what they need to do.
Great, thank you for that. And Marcus, obviously sort of built on technology from the ground up, right? Tell us a little bit more about how that technology is helping all of your beneficiaries and stakeholders to have this better human experience that you're so passionate about.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, look, the recidivism rate in America is 76%. And for those who aren't up on it, like recidivism meaning, coming out of prison and going back. 76%, and within the first 3 years. And now, while most of those rearrests are as a result of technical violations, it still means that, the vast majority of people that are coming out of prison are going back. And we want to figure out ways to be able to leverage tech and specifically data to help understand how to reduce that number. We started off with family engagement and building ways for their loved ones to connect with one another, because that's what worked with me and my mom. But one of the interesting things that I think that we don't talk about when we talk about trying to figure out ways to rid ourselves of this era of mass incarceration are the invisible victims of incarceration, the family members, especially the children. These are the people who had nothing to do with the crime that was committed, but typically hurt the most. And I'm one of the ones that will tell you firsthand, when I was in prison, I didn't realize that it was also affecting my mom. My mom would talk about how she would sit and try to figure out how to grapple with her only son being in prison, but also my mom would cook dinner for her and me while I'm there before she would realize at setting the table that, oh no, wait, my baby is in prison. And that does something to a family member. It does something to my mom, it does something to her brothers, my uncles, it does something to my sister and her children. They see me in a way that that forces them to try to figure out how to sympathize with me. One of the things that we wanted to be able to do with our technology is not figure out how to help the community to sympathize with people in prison, because I think that accountability is important, but more to empathize. You know, sympathy is, you know, when you feel for someone, you feel for them. But empathy is when you feel with them. And how we leverage tech to be able to do that, I think, is very, very, very important. And also how we leverage the Marcus Bullock narrative and that story to say, hey, it's possible. And this is what can be done. And we leverage a few clicks and a couple of postcards to make that happen. That's great. Thank you. Maybe let's switch gears a little bit, because all of you are parts of organizations. All of you are parts of either nonprofits or for-profit organizations. Tell me about how the technology is helping the employees do their job better. And I will say, especially in the nonprofit sector, being able to be more effective, more efficient, being able to do more with less, always in a nonprofit, is really important. Tell me about that employee experience as well in having access to technology. Jessica, we'll start with you.
Sure, yeah. So as I mentioned earlier, our site has always been hosted on EC2, which is great for things like, you know, next week we have this international Hour of Code initiative, and we're able to scale for 10 times our normal usage very easily, right? It's that's been a huge help for all of the people working at code.org. And then, you know, I mentioned earlier there was that new course that we built for high schoolers. And this is where we really started reaching out to the diversity of offerings that AWS offers. This course, maybe a little bit of background first. When teachers are, you know, teaching in classrooms, if they need to install something on their student computers, it becomes a major headache, right? They have to work with IT departments and cut through a whole bunch of red tape. And so from day one, we've always offered our courses entirely online. And this new high school course is taught entirely in Java, which hasn't been a web language for over a decade, I think. And so now we started having to think about, okay, now how do we compile student code? How do we run it and allow students to interact with it live without, you know, affecting our own workloads, without allowing, you know, malicious code or unintentionally malicious code from taking things down on our side. And so that diversity of options that, you know, that AWS offers was a huge help there. We were able to use Lambda to run those student projects, API Gateway to allow communication from the students, and then also Simple Queue Service to collect the messages that students were sending to their programs, and then allow, you know, Lambda to read those and respond. And so it was quite a journey of discovering, you know, how to make these new technologies, or not new, but how to make these new to us technologies work together, and it's been working really well. Similarly to that kind of hour of code scaling that we do with EC2, where it's far, far more than our normal usage. We did a pilot of this new course that had maybe about 1,000 students in it. And then seemingly overnight in August, when the school year started, it jumped up to 12,000 students. And there wasn't really anything we had to do. It just scaled effortlessly and allowed us to focus on that student experience and on making the application work well.
Oh, I love that. Thank you for that. Love that. That's why we do this. Samir, employees and staff and how they're really taking advantage of the technology.
So when we started our journey to the cloud, one of the things that we wanted to make sure we did was to make it easy for the engineering teams to do their work. You know, we didn't want them to put a ticket in to, you know, fire up a server or any kind of compute. So it was all self-service. And our platform team did an amazing job of configuring the platform so that the engineering teams had all the services available to them, had frameworks available to them so they can do the logging and all of the security pieces, and let them do what they were good at, which was delivering value to the business. So that was something that we deliberately started to go down the path of. So when we started doing that, we realized that we have to really have full stack teams. So you hear about you build it, you run it. That's exactly what we do, right? So we have a full stack team, not a full stack engineer, where that whole team can build value to the business, serving our members, and not worry about some of the underpinnings of what needs to happen, right? Let AWS worry about, EC2 and the hardware that goes underneath it, or the Lambda infrastructure that's underneath it. We don't want to worry about that, right? Let someone else worry about that, and we wanted to concentrate on making sure that we can really deliver to our members.
Fantastic.
And then lastly, getting data to flow, right? This data in motion where we can then build AI and ML on top of it so that we can then personalize and give the right information at the right time to the right channel.
Right.
That's key, right? And that can only happen in a way if the technology is built for it and the teams can utilize it.
Perfect. Thank you. Marcus, how about you?
Yeah, I mean, like I said, I had no idea how to be. Can you imagine coming out of prison trying to build a tech company? So we can talk about the employees and how that was impacted, right? But funny story. So when I first launched, when we were launching FlickShop, we were trying to set out to go find, people to help me build this idea. It was an idea. I had no idea what a developer was. I don't have a tech background. I'm calling around and I'm like, hey, I want to help build this app to send pictures to my friends in jail. And what I learned later would be these development companies I would call. They're like, why would you want to send pictures to people in prison? Clearly, you want to develop for me. Hang up, call the next one. And eventually, I land on this one company. I go through, all this, this research, and we start doing this, these storyboarding. And they ask me, have you thought about your profile of your customer? Who's the customer? What's the avatar? I'm like, I've seen the movie Avatar, but I don't. So anyway, so this one guy, he says, Marcus, it looks like this budget for this project won't work for you. But I've always wanted to go out on my own, venture out on my own, and start this new company as a consultant. I would love to be able to take you on as my first client. Oh, this is awesome. He sends the email, he writes this long email, he signs it, John Uksui. I'm super pumped about, meeting him. And it was interesting because, the first call, we're starting to profile these customers and what do you want the screens to look like? And he's using terms like wireframes. I'm like, I don't know what you're talking about. And so, at the end of the call, I'm like, Mr. Uksui, I'm so grateful for you. Thank you so much. He's like, Marcus, I can't wait to work with you. This is going to be an incredible project. I can't wait to see what happens years from now. But I have one question for you, Marcus. Why do you keep calling me, Mr. Uksui? And I'm like, oh, I'm so sorry that I mispronounced your name because names are really, really important to me. He's like, well, no, but you keep calling me this, and I'm like, well, in your signature, your email, you signed it, John Uksui. And he says, oh, no, Marcus, that was the name of my title, John, but my title is UX UI. Anyway, so you can imagine, like, I had no idea what I was doing when I was building this company. Now, interestingly enough, today, I feel blessed to be able to not only continue to figure out ways to be able to leverage tech in interesting ways to help, fight mass incarceration. And I'm also blessed to be able to bring other people onto my team who have felony convictions as well and giving them opportunities to be able to build sustainable, employment pathways for themselves. But I think what's most interesting, and the thing that we've learned along the journey of sending so many postcards, with understanding who is receiving these postcards, who's sending these postcards, where people are incarcerated, how long their sentences are, the jurisdiction where they are, that the justice system is so fragmented. The state and federal facilities, they don't talk to one another. The local county jails don't talk to either of them. Juvenile facilities don't talk to any of them. ICE detention centers have no idea what's going on. Probation or parole doesn't talk to any of them. And it makes for a massive gap that needed to be filled. And we figured out ways to be able to leverage some of our dashboards to not only help inform our team members, so our employees, so they can understand how to do their jobs more effectively in connecting not only the families, but the second chance hires that leverage us and the governments that leverage our platform as well. But I love what we're able to create with those similar dashboards for some of our customers, like Delta Airlines or Boeing or Bank of America, or Meta or Slack. Shout out to Slack for being one of the sponsors. I saw the sign. I'm like, okay, Slack. But you know, a company like Slack, for example, I announced a partnership with Stuart Butterfield, the CEO of Slack, in Aspen at the Ideas Festival over the summer, and we talked about how we want to be able to help create pathways, second chance employment opportunities for people coming out of prison. And they're leveraging their team members, their employees are leveraging our data and our dashboards in very interesting ways that allow for massive success stories, like the 3 men, check this, 3 men that walked out of San Quentin prison to go work in the quality assurance department at Slack, making $125,000 a year straight out of prison, right? Having that monster success story is something I'm very proud of. Thank you guys. Yeah, I promise you, I'm way more excited than you guys are. but no, very, very grateful for what's happening with our team members, but also how we are learning that other companies are leveraging our tech as well.
That's fantastic. Let's take off on that for a minute on just the skill sets and the advice that you might have on building the skills internally, maybe leveraging partners as well, but making sure that your workforce is upskilling to be able to work on and be a part of this incredible community at AWS and technology in general. Samir, maybe, do you want to take
Yeah, I'm not going to lie, it's hard. You know, so we really have
Marcus has some people for you, by the way.
Absolutely, absolutely.
We had to really rethink the way we did stuff, right? So, you know, I've been in IT for 25, 30 years, and undoing what I knew to look at the cloud in a different way was a challenge, right? It was a challenge for me, and it starts with leadership. If it's a challenge for leadership, how are your teams going to get it? So whether the way you design, the way you code, your infrastructure is code, right? So nothing gets through without it going through the code cycle. Getting infrastructure engineers to now think like software engineers. So all of these different things in terms of, you know, making sure that they understand all of those different skills and the leadership supporting them. And then more importantly, you know, we're part of the business, right? We're no longer IT. We're part of the business. We're an extension of the business, and we show everything, and we show them how the sausage is made, right? So we're no longer the geeks that go behind code, and hopefully, you know, a month later, something comes out. We sit at the table with them, we think about and talk about the ideas, and, you know, within hours or days, they're seeing that in production. So that was a big change for all of us, including the business.
Going a little bit more agile, a little bit more iterative.
Exactly.
Excellent, excellent. Jessica, how about you?
Yeah, so
It's all about skilling at code.org.
yeah. So my team originally all of the engineers at code.org are full stack engineers, right? But we certainly specialize. And my team, being very focused on the student experience, was much more specialized front end before we took on this project. And the idea of a front end team building a microservice to build a new high school course seems like a daunting kind of challenge to pick up. And it started with trying it out, right? Just experimenting with a few different services. You know, we certainly had some more infrastructure specialists on the team, and they were able to advise. But really, it was the team that really ended up building it themselves, right? And you know, we ended up building it ourselves. And you know, we started out just trying it out a few times, prototyping a few options. You know, how do we get Java running on these on these backends, and how do we allow students to interact with their program while it's running so they can do those kind of classic, hello, what's your name?
Right.
Hello, Jessica, kind of, those simple early projects that everyone learns. And so, we try things out, we prototyped them, and people started to get more comfortable with it. We all started to get more comfortable with it surprisingly fast. As soon as we started thinking of lambdas as functions and SQS as queues, it still matched with a lot of our normal programming constructs and the algorithms that we learned early on. And so kind of setting that framework for how we think about it, allowed us to pick it up a lot faster.
Got it.
And I think you kind of look at it as something that's going to be very complicated, but once you start trying it out and getting those successes, especially us getting successes for our students, that's where you start to really feel confident in it as well.
Perfect. Perfect. So big vision, small wins, iterate, be flexible, learn from it, keep going, keep
Exactly,
iterating.
yeah.
Excellent. All right. Little bit of a lightning round. So what's next for your organization and your organization with the use of cloud technology? Marcus.
So what's next for Flickshop? We're building Flickshop VR that brings immersive learning classrooms inside of prisons around the country. We want to be able to teach people how to gain access to a lot of those hard skills that we want to help upskill people with well before they come home from prison so they can hit the ground running.
Perfect. Love it. Love it. All right, Samir.
So from a technology perspective, we spoke about scaling up. We actually want to start to learn to scale down, right? And what I mean by that is, engineers, they'll scale up, they'll leave it there, and then, till you get your first bill. And it's like, okay, how do you figure this back out, right? We're a not-for-profit. We want to put back all that money to doing good.
Right.
So scaling down is harder than what people think, right? So being elastic, that's one thing. And then, again, doubling down on making sure people get what they need in the time they need it, right? And what that means is making sure that this data is flowing, we can analyze it, and we can personalize and give them the data in near real time using AI and ML. I think that's going to be the key for us.
That's great. So optimizing, using your data smarter, better, more often, making decisions from data, and then personalizing, using the data to personalize. Love it. Excellent. Excellent. Jessica.
I think from a big picture, expanding our international presence is a big thing for us. And then thinking about my team specifically, right, the student experiences team, we just spent a lot of time focusing on our oldest students. And so, what about our middle school students or our youngest students? We support pre-readers, so students who are learning to read and learning how to use a computer and also how to code. And so I think looking into improving the learning experience for those students as well.
That's fantastic. Well, as a former kindergarten teacher, love that. And anywhere you look now, kids are on their phones, even in their strollers or on their iPads. So they're ready for you. I think they're ready for you. So excellent. Well, thank you all again so much. A couple more things. So it is Giving Tuesday. Today is Giving Tuesday. So you're all lucky enough to be here on Giving Tuesday. There's a lot of events happening out on the floor in the exhibition, but I wanted to give each of our incredible organizations an opportunity to do your pitch for Giving Tuesday. These are the QR codes. Please get your phones out, scan them, volunteer. Go ahead, Jessica.
Sure, yeah. So as I mentioned at the very beginning of this, we have an opportunity. We can volunteer, and we have ideas about how to do that at code.org/volunteer. You can advocate at your local, state, and federal governments. Code.org/advocacy has more information there. And then, of course, you can donate to the work that we do at code.org/donate.
All right, QR codes, everybody got those? Got those? Get them out. All right. And Samir.
Donate to the ARP Foundation. Become a volunteer, whether it's an hour, a day, a week, however many hours you want to spend, we've got something for you. So please volunteer. Become a member. There's so many things out there for members to do. And lastly, we're hiring. So go on AOP.org/careers, and we're hiring.
Excellent. And Marcus.
We are also hiring. We're always, I think everyone is out here is hiring. But I talked a little bit about the children who suffer from incarceration the most. And if you become a Flickshop Angel, it enables us to be able to give free Flickshop credits to children with incarcerated parents around the country. We don't want them to have to go bug auntie or uncle for their credit card to be able to spend 99 cents. And for a small contribution, it allows for them to be able to send Flickshops completely for free. So I would love for you guys to become a Flickshop Angel. Also, if you guys are thinking about ways to advance your second chance hiring practices, I would love to talk to you. You can either jump in my DMs at Marcus Bullock on Instagram, Facebook, Twitter, send a smoke signal. I'll find you. And also, lastly, I think that it's important to be able to share these kinds of conversations. One of the things that I say often, because I live in DC, is that policy and legislation decisions don't happen on Capitol Hill. They happen at the dinner tables. And if we shift the conversation at the dinner table, then we can begin to see safer communities for all of us. So I'm super grateful that you guys have an opportunity to help participate in that way.
Thank you so much. Oh, everyone got that one? Excellent. Well, I wanted to thank you also very much. A couple more things before you go. We want to make sure that you know about our Imagine programs. We have some incredible opportunities for all of you to understand that we are doing something called the Imagine Grants. They will be announced. The winners for this year will be announced tomorrow at Max Peterson's Leadership Summit. And these are our past winners. So exciting for us to be able to provide grants to organizations that allow them to get started and then to be able to go further. And we are really, really excited about that. We're also excited about Tech Action. So if you haven't heard about Tech Action, please go to the website, new and improved. So we're really excited about our AWS new and improved website. And Tech Action is about empowering nonprofits to build, modernize, and scale, to really become together as a community to help each other. So please check it out. Go to the AWS Tech Action. We want this program to become the biggest nonprofit community out there, and all of you can be a part of that, whether you're a nonprofit yourself or you are a supporter of nonprofits. So we really, really are excited about that. And please stop by booth 440, say hello, go to the Impact Lounge. Make sure that you're taking advantage of, especially today on Giving Tuesday, all of the volunteering activities and the giving back opportunities that you'll see around, from water.org and getting your water bottle and making sure that we're making those donations there, to the Impact Lounge. Giving Tuesday is being taken over by our incredible nonprofits for the Impact Lounge. Please stop by there as well, and make sure that you come see us. Come see us, our account executives, our solution architects. They're all here. They'll be around the Impact Lounge and around the booth to help you get started, to go further faster, to modernize. We're so thrilled to be a part of everything that you do. We are so humbled and inspired by everything that our nonprofits do every single day. So thank you so very, very much. And thank you, Marcus, thank you, Samir, and thank you, Jessica.